Okay. Hello. Good afternoon. It is my pleasure to be here today in Tokyo. It was quite a long trip, but it's really good to be with you, sharing a bit of the knowledge. 私はリカルドです。コスタリカ人です。でもアメリカに住んでいます。サンフランシスコ。オラコルシニアプリンシパプロダクトマネージャーです。クラウドマイグレーションプロダクトマネージャー。日本語を少し勉強します。勉強しました。でも、英語今日英語を話します。すみません。どうぞよろしくお願いします。Okay. So yeah, not more Japanese. Now it's all English. My apologies. First, we always are asked to say and put this slide, which means that things can change. And what I'm talking about today could at some point have any differences, especially because today I'm going to present a new product. So it's important that we always show this. Now, for the agenda today, we're going to talk about 3 different topics. First of all, the cloud journey and how the Oracle database has evolved throughout the years and what this means for the Oracle database as a whole, but also what it means for the Oracle Cloud and the Oracle database in the Oracle Cloud. Yes, then I will be talking about moving to the cloud best practices and where do we consolidate all the best practices, which are the different tools, products, and solutions that we recommend for cloud migration. And then, of course, I'll be talking about, Oracle Zero Downtime Migration, which is a new product that will be releasing soon and talks about, automates the whole migration process for the database to the Oracle Cloud. Tomorrow, we will also have a session on Zero Downtime Migration, but it'll be more technical deep dive on Zero Downtime Migration. Okay, so let's get started. I have a question, which I don't expect answer because I understand it's not interactive, but I will ask anyway, which is, do you know when the database release, the Oracle database was first released? Which year? Yeah. So it was 40 years ago, 1979. Yes. It all started actually in Santa Clara, California in 1977. So a company called Software Development Laboratories was founded by Larry Ellison and 2 other people because they had a project by the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency of the US government, and the project code name was Oracle. So they had 2 years to deliver this project, but they finished in 1, right? So the extra year they had, they used theory on the relational model, and they did one really important thing, which is creating the Oracle version 2 in 1979. Now, the first release of the Oracle database was the first commercial relational database management system, but it's important to say that it was not version 1 because Larry Ellison thinks that nobody buys version 1 of a product. So he named the product version 2. Right. Now, this is just a small history just to introduce about and talk about where we're going. But the database goes beyond just that. That was just the beginning, right? So a really important anecdote is that before 83, maybe in 1980, when they were working on version 3, or the Oracle database, they make a decision that changed forever the future of the company. And that decision was to change the language in which the database was built, and now it was going to be built in C, making the database multi-platform, and hence opening to the market as we know today. Then throughout the years, we've had different releases and different versions of the Oracle database. For instance, really important, in 2001, we have version 9.9, which introduced RAC, Real Application Clusters, giving shape and form to high availability as we know it today in the Oracle database. We have, of course, 11G and 11GR2 when we introduced ACFS, Golden Gate, other features as well. And we have 12C, which is really important in 2013 because it's the first database that was completely oriented for the Oracle Cloud. Now, this year it's 2019, and we have Oracle 19C and many important features and functionality that has been, a product of all the, evolution of the Oracle database. And, 20C, which is coming up next, right? Now, all of this has one important meaning, right? Because all the roads at the end of the day converge and take us to one single step, right? Which is the database in the Oracle Cloud, right? Now, in order to, talk about the Oracle Cloud, we need to also understand what does it mean for the database, right? And then which are the different best practices for that. So the question what I have for you is, and again, I don't expect you to answer me, but I'll just have an open question, which is, what are the different ways of using the database in the Oracle Cloud? So we have several database cloud services. I'm going to start with, of course, virtual machines, which is one of the database cloud services, and I'll elaborate more on it in a bit. We also have bare metal, which is quite important and relevant for a reason I will mention in the slides to come. We also, if you like the Exadata database machine, which is a really powerful engineered system by Oracle, we have the Exadata Cloud Service in the Oracle Cloud. Now, some customers don't fully use the cloud or don't want everything to be on the cloud per se, but want to have the advantages of having a cloud deployment. So we offer to them the Exadata Cloud Customer, allowing you to have all the advantages of the Oracle Cloud, but within your premises without having to move to an Oracle data center, right? Now we have the autonomous flavors of the Oracle database. For OLTP, we have ATP, or Autonomous Transaction Processing, in two different flavors, serverless and dedicated deployments, which I'll cover in a bit. And for all your data warehousing needs, we have, of course, ADW, or the Oracle Autonomous Data Warehouse, right? So as a best practice, what we recommend always is for you to understand which Oracle Database Cloud Service is best for your use case. Now, this is really easy for me to say, but we can go and see each one of them, right? So in the case of virtual machines, right, we have a powerful deployment for you, but of course with a more limited capability depending on what you actually want and need, allows for a standard or enterprise edition starting in 11.2, different migration methods, of course, and it's quite a good service. It's flexible, but it wouldn't offer the power that other database cloud services offer as well. Yes. So also moving up, and I said that it's really important, we have database cloud service bare metal. Now, bare metal is really relevant for one specific reason. There's no other cloud that offers dedicated hardware for bare metal for running a database, Oracle database. You might have other clouds offering dedicated hardware for other databases, but proper dedicated hardware, as in the database cloud service, bare metal, only Oracle offers this. It offers more power, of course, but it gives you the flexibility to do the management yourself. Yes. Now, for Exadata Cloud Service, as I told you, it's a way to leverage the Exadata power managed by Oracle in our data centers, right? This is a really, really, really powerful service, and you can leverage many of the functionalities of and features and performance and power of an Exadata database machine, but managed by Oracle. Yeah. As mentioned before, we have the same deployment, but in your customer, in your premises, so you don't have to worry if that's not the case. Is that you do not want to have the all your data on the premises of the data Oracle data center. So we offer a specific Exadata deployment with all the cloud tooling, but managed in your data center, offered, of course, with all the Oracle support. Right. Now, we have the autonomous database in different flavors, and it could be the autonomous data warehouse, which offers specific optimizations for analytics, right? Columnar stores, right? and statistics maintained in a different fashion. And then we have the autonomous transaction processing flavors of the autonomous database. Yes. Autonomous transaction processing allows for two different serverless, in which you have a specific PDV for you, and then a dedicated deployment, which actually you have more control of the environment where you are, and is dedicated for yourself. There are different solutions for migrating to the autonomous cloud, and I will go into them in the next slides. But it's important for me to say that most of them, for now, unfortunately, are on a manual fashion and will require a lot of interaction on your side. So having said all of this, then the best practice, of course, is understanding the migration landscape. But what does this actually mean? So 2 years ago, we started in my team to work on what does actually other companies and even Oracle where we were offering to migrate to the cloud. What it meant to move a database from your premises to Oracle on the cloud. And we came with something like this. So on the left, you will have your source databases, and it could be Oracle 11G up to 19C, right? It could be Oracle databases running, for instance, in AWS. So it could be Oracle on RDS, or Relational Data Services by AWS, or even on EC2 instances. It could even be AWS Redshift databases, and then all the different target database cloud services of Oracle that you can move. So there are different methods, right? You can see here even products that you don't recognize, like ZDM, but I will talk more about that in the future, or even these MV to ADB, which actually means move to ADB or move to the autonomous database. So all of this information, of course, it's important, but it's good for me to know, but how do I share this with you? We'll see this in a bit. More than anything, we need to understand the different methods, how each one of them apply, and what would be better in terms of features and functionality for your specific migration needs, right? So of course, the best practice here is, okay, understanding each one of the solutions and how do they suit your needs, right? So we have 8 different methods, and I will talk about them for a brief moment. ZDM, or Zero Downtime Migration, I will be introducing this at the end of the presentation today. It's not that important to cover per se, but I think it's relevant to talk right now that it's a newly released tool, and when we come to the specific part of the presentation, I will talk more about it, because I think that this tool is going to be a game changer in our industry. Now we have Move to ADB, which is an automated script, which I'll also be talking more in the future, in the next couple of slides, which is this tool allows you to move to the autonomous database in an automated fashion. And there's a relationship between ZDM and Move to ADB, which we'll be covering in a bit as well. Now, the third one, when you see MAA, it's Maximum Availability Architecture, is not a method per se. It's a set of different tools or recommended practices that we have put together on how to use Oracle tools, but by maintaining maximum availability. So there's like 5 different methods that use DataGuard, or the Recovery Appliance, Golden Gate, and we have each one of them laid out for you, and I will tell you how to get the information on them. Yeah. Then we have SQL Developer. And SQL Developer, as a method, allows for different migrations, specifically mostly for small databases. It leverages other tools. So sometimes it uses SQL Loader, sometimes it uses Data Pump. But it's mostly recommended when you're doing small migrations for test and development environments, and the databases are not that big. But you can use the advantage of a UI or user interface like SQL Developer for your migration. Then, of course, we have Data Pump, which is the king for many of data movements. Unfortunately, however, although it's a great method and it allows for different types of migrations, Data Pump is manual, right? So you would have to do a lot of work on a manual fashion. The same applies for RMAN, or Recovery Manager. There's like 5 different methods that involve RMAN, and I can show you in a bit how they actually work, but where to get the information, on them. But with RMAN, you also need to do all the information yourself on a manual fashion. Then we have Plug Unplug. This is a manual method as well, which implies that you would have to do an unplugging and then plugging of a database. So when I say plug and plug, we talk about multi-tenant and container databases, but actually you can actually use also non-container databases as a source and container databases as a target. This, however, again, is a manual method and requires offline operations. And finally, we have remote cloning, which is based on database links. Now, all of this information, again, is great for the presentation, is great for me to show with you today, but where do you get this? So we'll almost go to that point. Now, just as a review, for all the different methods that we are using for migration, we have a list here. And the reason this is here is because then you can have the slides at the end of the event and you can go back to it, right? So you have the different methods like zero downtime migration, move to ADB, maximum availability architecture, data pump, and we tell you whether they are logical or physical, or there's actually possibilities to do them in both ways, online or offline migrations permitted with them, which database size, so any would mean a small or a medium or large databases, and you'll see why in the next slide there's some restrictions. So when I go to the rest of the methods, you can see that SQL Developer, for instance, or remote cloning, it's only for small databases, because otherwise the work just doesn't work properly. Now, but as a best practice for all the methods that we're seeing for autonomous database, they're mostly manual methods, and we'll see them in a second. But the best practice is to use move to ADB, which I'll be showing shortly. For all the use cases that are not autonomous database, we use VDM, which we'll also be presenting soon. And one thing that it's important to mention is that both of these tools in 20C will be actually unified. So you will actually be able to migrate to autonomous database from within VDM, which is a product that, again, I will show in a bit. Now, all of this information, where is it, right? So the open question that I have for you is, where would you go if you want to look for my information on database cloud migration for Oracle, right? Well, there was some websites in the past, and there was some information, mostly not that technical or deep. So we, and me as a product manager, took the job to actually change this, and we created the following, right? So there's a new website that has been over since the beginning of the year called oracle.com/go-to/move, move for moving your database to the Oracle Cloud, and the actual website looks like this, right? So the website has several important information. Now I'm going to switch, and I'm going to show you why this is important as part of the presentation today. So, so oracle.com/go-to/move, and you have here all the information about the different methods that I just mentioned. Let me just jump here. You have all the different solutions, so you can actually see like zero downtime migration. You can see the source databases, the target databases, a target database cloud service, and then if you click here, it'll take you to the actual product page. If I go to maximum availability architecture, it shows me, okay, the different methods that it has, source and targets. If I click on it here, actually it will take me again to the MAA page where all the methods are listed. I can see the SQL Developer with the different migration methods, again, source, target databases. We have also the OCI data transfer appliance, which I didn't mention, but it's a big suitcase that we have that allows for multi-terabyte, up to 150 terabytes of databases to be transported. And again, we have here Arman, we have here Data Pump that uses the move to ADB utility, plug and plug, remote cloning, and etc. This website as well has all the different cloud infrastructure blocks. It has the database migration block series. It has also links to all the different database cloud service, documentation, white papers, everything on migration. This, however, I think is just not enough. We need to have more coverage, right? So here is where we created the Cloud Migration Advisor, which is a really simple tool. And of course, in the future, we will have more coverage, which the Cloud Migration Advisor tool, when you click on it, right, it allows you to see, okay, here we have your source databases, where you are right now. So let's say you are on a database, Oracle Database 12c. When you click on it, it will tell you which are the available database cloud services that you could go. So you could go to bare metal, you could go to Exadata Cloud Service, you could go to Cloud Customer, you could go to any different one of them. So what if I want to go to Oracle Autonomous Database with dedicated deployments? then it only shows me other methods. And I say, well, it's interesting. Why only this? If I click here, it will actually take me directly onto how to load data into autonomous transaction processing, right? And all the different methods here with Golden Gate, Data Pump, SQL Loader, etc. But this would apply for all the different use cases and all the different sources that you have. So maybe you're coming from AWS and you have your database on AWS Redshift. It will tell you that the only possible way or most likely way for you is to go to Autonomous Data Warehouse. It will show you SQL Developer as a solution. And if you click again on it, the Cloud Advisor will tell you, okay, this is how to get from Redshift to Autonomous Data Warehouse using the different information and SQL Developer as a tool. What if I'm in AT&C? I want to go to Exadata Cloud Customer, and I want to use maximum availability architecture methods. Well, I click on it, and it actually goes to the Oracle MAA page. As you can see, it opened a specific section. Before you go up, it's actually the MAA website, but the section is here, and it has all the migration methods, right? And the actual links to go to the different support nodes and migration methods documentation as well. So we created this advisor with the idea that, as we improve and create products that are automated, you can have at least a starting point to have the information on how to migrate to the Oracle Cloud. Now I will go back here. Yes. Now, this again was all for manual methods, but we need to automate the process. We need to help you with the actual automation of the cloud. So how do we do this automation for you? We start first with getting your database on premise, moving the backup somewhere, and then in the case of the autonomous database, creating a new database. So the first step is moving to the object store in the cloud, and then of course instantiating in the autonomous database in the in the Oracle Cloud per se. There are different methods. Normally, if you go to documentation, you can use DBMS Cloud, SQL Developer, Data Pump, or SQL Loader. But we created a tool, and it's an automated script called Move to ADB, or MV to ADB, which actually automates the whole process with you, right? And Move to ADB uses different steps, especially leverages Data Pump for this process. So of course, for now, it's an offline operation and has different steps. So we will see them one by one. First of all, important, and we talk about it in Move to ADB, use the Schema Advisor as a best practice when migrating to autonomous database. If you want to know how to use it and information on the Schema Advisor, you can take a picture, and here is the document ID of the MUST node or my Oracle support node that has the Schema Advisor. But overall, for the Move to ADB process, the best practice, of course, is use it, right? And where do you get it, right? There's a MUST node, right? And the MUST node is here. The MUST node is 246.357.4.1, right? And there you would get all the information, the actual script that works and automates your process, and then a documentation, different steps, and also who to contact and how to actually have any support in the tool per se. Basically, the way it works is that we do an export in Data Pump, and we automate it for the Oracle database and moved the data to the object store in the Oracle Cloud, and do the import again, and then create a new database that it's leveraged and instantiated and in the Oracle Autonomous database. Then we have different operation modes, right? Of course, the automatic will create everything, but depending on what you're doing, we can do an export from the source or an import into autonomous database. As I mentioned previously, really important, we use the OCI or object store for the different moving with the data, and then the backups to then use it for the creation of the database that we're going to have on the cloud. One of the requirements is to have the OCI command line interface. And where do you get this? Well, it's actually available in GitHub. You can download it really easily, and it's here. So if you're interested, this is the link. However, remember you're going to have the slides at the end of the presentation, so don't worry about copying it just right now. Now, just as a reminder, the script's actually quite small, but this is the actual link and the actual MUST node where you can actually have Move to ADB. Now, this tool or automated tool works for the autonomous database, right? But what if I want to move to virtual machines? What if I want to move to bare metal? What if I want to move to Exadata Cloud Customer? Or if I want to move to Exadata Cloud Services? So we worked in the team for the past 2 years in creating an automated framework that will do this for you in a product fashion, not in the form of a support mode note downloadable, but actual product. And that's what I want to talk about right now. So Oracle Zero Downtime Migration is a tool that was just announced last week at Oracle Open World. And the product is ready. We'll be liberating it and making it generally available in the next month or less weeks, actually, so quite soon. And it works as following, right? It's a simple tool that has a single button approach. What do I mean by this? You will download a tool and feed information into it. So we have a template file that will have information on the source database, information on the target database, credentials, etc. And then it will automate the migration process for you. Now, the tool has been, since we work in HA and high availability and scalability at Oracle, we're like brothers with the maximum availability architecture team. So MAA has tested this tool. So basically the way we did the product is we create a product, they tested, broke it, gave it back to us. We fixed it, gave it to them, they tested, broke it, gave it back to us, and so on until it was completely MAA compliant, using all the precepts and best practices of maximum availability architecture. Now, this is developed by the database organization, specifically by the team that created Grid Infrastructure and the Fleet Patching and Provisioning Framework known as FPP or previously RHP. This allows us to have different ways of working in jobs and doing different things. For instance, we do pre-checks prior to the migration, so we check the source database and we check the target database. We do also after the migration post-checks that everything is fine and in order. We can pause at any time, and we can also resume at any time. If you're not happy with the migration or you have to go back for any reason, we are completely rollback enabled. We can go back. And we have something called dry run option. Yeah. Now, the dry run option is really important because basically what we do is we can fake a migration, meaning we could pretend to migrate the database to the Oracle Cloud and then go through the process without actually migrating. We can then tell you what would happen and what are the different outcomes in case you need to make any corrections before performing the actual migration. Yes. Now, the workflow is highly customizable. If you come to my session tomorrow, you'll see there are 26 steps, and I'll show them each one to you. You can actually introduce a script in between any one of them, and what the ZDM would do as an orchestrator would be execute the scripts in the moment you tell them, either the source database or the target database, right? Now, we grow to fleet scale, given that we're the part of the RAC team and the high availability and scalability team. So we have a centralized place or a command deck, which is your own, panel of control, where you can schedule operations. So you can say, hey, I want to migrate my database at 3 in the morning on a Saturday when nobody is connected. Okay, let's do this. You can do, single instance databases, RAC databases, multiple clusters of databases being migrated by the tool. We have an audit trail, so we keep all the logs and a proper history of everything that has been done so that you can always go back and check. And we can do migrations in parallel with no problem. Now, what are the sources and targets? Oracle 11G to 19C and targets the same versions. We recommend to do same version to same version, not cross versions. If you're migrating from 11G to 12C, it's better that if you do the upgrade in place at your premises and then do the migration. Also, this tool actually leverages DataCard. So the first version of it, which is version 1 and will be again released soon, it's based mostly for Linux. We will use Golden Gate, but I'll talk more about that at the end. For version 2, which is coming out next year. So we'll allow for also cross-platform migration. What are the different target database cloud services? As I mentioned, virtual machines, bare metal, Exadata Cloud Service, and Exadata Cloud Customer. Yeah. Now, if you have databases on OCIC or Generation 1 Cloud, and you want to migrate them to Generation 2 Cloud or OCI, we also orchestrate that step. Yeah. Yes. Now, all of this sounds great, but how does it actually work, right? Because it's really easy to just say, okay, this is just, we migrate everything and we automate the whole process, but what do we do? So basically, you download ZDM, and I will talk tomorrow more about the prerequisites of the tool. What do you require? But you require a Linux 7 server and certain specific characteristics, and you configure it. By configuration, what do we mean? You need to fill information on the template file about the source and target, right? So once you do that, and you're ready, you issue the command to migrate. Everything that is happened afterwards is done by us. You have no intervention there, unless you want to pause at any given time, but everything is done automated by ZDM or zero downtime migration. So the second step after you issue the command of migration is that we connect, or ZDM connects, to the source and the target. So we use SSH connectivity, and we connect to the source database on your premises and to the target database on the Oracle database, on the Oracle Cloud, or in your own premises in the Exadata Cloud as customer, right? Yeah. Once we have done and established this connectivity, what we do is we connect the source to a backup location, right? Given that if you want to migrate to bare metal virtual machines or Exadata Cloud service, normally that backup location would be the object store. If you're doing Exadata Cloud customer, then the backups could be different. It could be NFS, or it could be the recovery appliance as well, right? But in this case, and for the purposes of this demonstration, is the object store. We establish that connectivity with HTTPS. The object store is in your tenancy, so the data is always on your side. We never have access to your data. And then when we establish that connectivity, what we do is we start transferring database files, right? And we transfer the whole database files, full backup, incremental archives for one specific reason, right? So we need that transfer of files because the fifth step that we take is actually instantiation of a standby database on the target database on the cloud. So we take the information and all the data on the object store, and we create a standby on the target database cloud service, right? Once we have used all the information and created the standby on the database cloud service that you have chosen on the Oracle Cloud, we then create a new SQLnet connectivity between the source and the target via SQLnet, right? And this is so that we have a synchronization between the primary database on your premises and the standby database on the Oracle Cloud. Once synchronization has been achieved and everything is in place, we actually perform a switchover and then do a role swap. Really important here, right? Of course, the databases will always be up, right? There might be a bit of a brownout time, we call it, when you're doing the switch over the application, but a zero downtime applies for the database, which is always up at all moments, right? This phase, you can pause it actually, and you can do all your tests and development all the testing before actually doing the final switchover and role swap. When the source database becomes a standby and the cloud database becomes the actual primary, right? Once you're completely ready, ZDM will actually finalize at your at your command or at your will, right? So it means that we will do a cleanup between all the SSH connectivity and clean up all the source and target preparations that we had made. You can maintain the SQLnet connectivity, but normally what we do when we clean up is that we kill everything and all the connections, and you'll have the application connected directly to the database on the cloud as a primary. So as a summary, we have 8 simple steps. Download ZDM and configure it. Issue the command to migrate. Connect to the source and the target database. We connect to the object store or your preferred backup method location. Transfer all the database files, backups. We create a standby using those files. We synchronize the standby and the database, the primary and the standby, and then we do the switch over on the role swap, and finalize when you're ready, right? Now, as a best practice, of course, the switchover at will is always recommended for any given methods if you're using this kind of methodology. because then you can do all your testing before doing the switchover. But I mentioned DataGuard, and then I mentioned that version 2 will use Golden Gate, right? So that begs a question that is really important, right? So one more thing that I think it's important to mention to you is that zero downtime migration will be free. We will not be charging, and we want our customers to come to our cloud. So what we want is for you to have availability to all of these products at no cost, right? So the license will allow for you to have and use these products to migrate to the Oracle Cloud without any extra charge. Now, when we come to version 2 and we use Golden Gate, you think, well, Golden Gate requires a license. How do we do this? So we work a lot. I, as a product manager, my job is to take care of the products, and they become like my son or my daughter, but I want them to be adopted by good families and families to be happy. So what we do is we want you to use products in the right way, and we want you to come to the Oracle Cloud. So what we did is we got an exception, and even if we use Golden Gate for migration, once zero downtime migration adopts Golden Gate, it will be free of charge for the duration of the migration. We have to establish a period, so it could be 3 months, 6 months. We're still not clear about that, but it will not have no cost for you, so it will be completely free. Do you have any questions? Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Excited session. I have a question about MV2 DBA tool. Can this tool roll back? For example, I have done my DB migration, but new DB, new system is happen big incident. Oh my God! I want to roll back, switch back my on-premise system.
Because move to ADB, it's offline and it uses data pump. The way it works just creates a new database with the data you have transferred. So there's no proper switchback in the automated process. But when we integrate the move to ADB and ZDM in version 2, Golden Gate and data pump, we will have that capability. So for now, you cannot do it, but when we release the new version, you will be able to do so. Okay. Now the product, you can go and see information on ZDM in oracle.com/go-to/ZDM. This website is public, yes. It has a video. It doesn't have this. This is how it will look in the future. And don't forget to also visit oracle.com/go-to-move, where you have all the information. So this is my Twitter account, where we post normally things about migration, cloud migration, and different Oracle high available products, and the 2 product pages. Now, before you go, because I know I have 3 more minutes before they finish the session, we have some zero downtime migration stickers. So if anyone is interested, I can share them right now. So it's like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass them, and then you can. Yes. Good. Excellent. Well, thank you very much. ありがとうございます。